Greetings, Spirit Island fans! Today I want to talk about one of my favorite spirits in this game, the foundation of the island and the oldest spirit there. At least according to them. Let's talk about the Slumbering Serpent beneath the isle. Long ago, in an earlier age, there was only water where islands now lie. One day, for there were day and night by then, though humans did not yet exist, a great serpent grew tired of swimming and decided to rest. It drew the earth up around itself, and so the island was born. Other stories say different things. In particular, Volcano Looming High has its own account, but stories do not need to agree for them to be true. Regardless, many spirits can sense the immense serpent deep below. It is mostly asleep, and its influence on the land above is limited. But the invader's blight already begins to sting it towards greater wakefulness. The Slumbering Serpent is old, and therefore large, and therefore not very quick to action due to their long view on time. Its origins stretch so far back in antiquity that it's impossible to know their relationships to the other spirits, if they have any. They certainly have no particular opinion towards the Han. The serpent just slumbers, allowing the island to grow on their back while they're asleep. Indeed, they have slept for so long that it seemed almost a myth. It's a special day when you can describe something as older than dirt and be 100% sincere. But the serpent is at least partially aware of what's going on the island. Even they could feel the land blighting as the invaders settle. They understand the threat they pose, and thus they begin to awaken. But they are slow, still groggy, and tired from their nap. So they must wait before they can strike out with their full power. Yeah, there's not much in the way of lore to go off of here. This is basically a hibernating bear that just wants to be left alone, and when something approaches on its territory, they get pissed off. Heck, it is probably quite notable that the invaders even woke it up. If the spirit were to wake fully, I imagine the world would have a full-on kaiju snake monster to deal with, and we wouldn't be playing Spirit Island, but King of Tokyo. Kaiju Snake. Kaiju Snek! You are now called Kaiju Snek. So with a very sparse lore section, let's go to the mechanics. The first thing that should be said right off the bat, this is very much a slow burn spirit. Your early game is going to be very low key. You can protect your lands, but you are not going to be taking the fight to the invaders anytime soon. Your card play and energy gain are not going to be fantastic at first, but you will see, further down the track, that there are some juicy benefits to be had. Though to get some of the best stuff, to play 4 and to gain 6 energy, you will need to hit this threshold here. In order to get to this one, you will need to take all the presence tokens off all the spots before it, on both tracks. But 4 card plays means that you can do a lot of stuff, and 6 energy is an income that can support a lot of major powers. And that's all well and good, but you also need to look at the Kaiju Snek special rules. This one complicates matters of growth. At the beginning of the game, you can only have 5 presence on the island, no more. If you want to keep growing, you will need to do one of 2 things. The first is likely what you ought to do at some point. Play Absorb Essence and use it. Absorb Essence is one of Serpent's power cards, so let's look at it. Absorb Essence asks your fellow players for a bit of sacrifice. When the power on this card is used, the Serpent will eat another spirit's presence, removing it from the game, and that presence will go on a track of the Serpent's board, raising the limit of the amount of presence the snake can have in play. And it should be noted that they are out of play, not destroyed. Spirits can't get this presence back if the serpent ate it. But this doesn't mean that the other spirit doesn't get anything out of this. They get a little bit of energy, they get an element of their choice, and they benefit from the serpent using their innate power, Serpent Wakes in Power, usually providing extra energy for the spirits, but it can do more for them. But back to placing presence. While Absorb Essence is the big one, there is a sneakier way. The rule only restricts the amount of presence you can have, not the amount that you can place. So if you find ways to just blow up your presence, you can actually free up some slots. Do I recommend this method? Well, not as a primary measure, but I know that things happen. Sometimes you just can't protect your lands. If it saves you some effort, then why not? Before we look at other powers, let's check out our growth. And for the first time on my show, we get a build your own growth option. Serpent has 4 options you can choose from, and you can pick 2 of them. You can place a presence at range 3 in a land that isn't blighted, you can gain 4 energy, you can gain a power card and 1 energy, and/or reclaim your cards while moving a presence 1 spot over. Useful for getting yourself out of danger, positioning for a good land, or just being able to occupy a blighted spot. So we looked at Absorb Essence. Let's check out the other power cards. You may note that all 4 of these are fast powers, whereas both of the Kaiju Snek's innate element powers are slow. 2 of these cards are straight up support cards. Gift of Flowering Power can give one other spirit a point of energy. Not much, but every little bit helps. But the target spirit also gets a choice. They can either get a free fire and water element, or they can pay to play an extra card. I don't think I need to tell you this, but an extra card play is very nice to have. So this is one that might not get much use in the early game, but once things pick up, this card might get much more tempting to use, so you can get another card for a spirit and get more elements for you to use. Gift of the Primordial Deeps allows one spirit to gain a free minor power, something that is always nice. Once the power is gained, that spirit may decide to either get a free moon and earth, or they can pay to instantly play the card that they gained. But my favorite of Serpent's cards is Elemental Aegis. This one asks you to choose a land that one of your presence is in. That land, as well as every land around it, gets a defend 2, plus 1 for every absorbed presence. So if you've already eaten 2 presents, you are putting down a defend 4 on a good chunk of the island. Another reason why Absorb Essence is useful. Now let's jump over to our innate powers, and it looks like we need a lot to get things going. For Serpent Wakes in power, we need 2 fire, a water, and a plant for the first threshold. The fire and water are easy enough. The issue here is the plant element. You will note none of the Serpent starting cards have the plant element. Now while I normally say you need to scrounge for it, you were actually given a lifeline for this. The second covered spot on the Serpent's top track has you gain any one element of your choice per turn. So if you grant plant with that, bada bing bada boom, you can use this first slot and grant yourself and any spirit whose presence you ate 1 energy. Ooh, sorry for eating your leg. Here, have a snack. So maybe not a benefit that is worth chasing, but due to the distribution of elements in your cards and tracks, the only one you need to grab is plant. So if you aren't using that free element for a major power or whatever, yeah, get a free energy. Go green. Especially since you'll be stuck with an energy income of 1 for most of the game. So you're probably going to need it. It's the second and third levels where things need a bit more consideration. Level 2 allows you and any players whom you have eaten 2 presents to freely place a present on the board. Assuming that you're able to, of course. The rub here is that for most of the game, you will be restricted to 2 card plays. So getting that 3 earth on top of the 2 water and 2 plant is kinda challenging. Not impossible, but challenging. And the last one you are not going to be able to do until you get that play 4. Unless you get significant help from other players, of course. Again, it's that dang plant that makes this hard. If you get 3 fire, water, earth, and plant, then you, and any spirit whom you have 3 presents, get a free major power without even having to lose another power in order to gain it. This is very nice, but not easy to get. This level I tend to ignore, as you pretty much need to be at around the end game in order to be able to accomplish it. But let's look at the other power. While Serpent Wakes in power is used as support and build-up, Serpent Rouses in Anger is your dedicated offense. Unlocking the first level is easy. It's making it useful that takes a bit more effort. Get this first threshold with 1 fire and 1 earth. A feat that can be accomplished with 1 card play, or 0 later in the game, in order to deal 1 damage to a town or city. Yeah, the Kaiju Snek is not going to be targeting the explorers. Too small time. Now 1 damage to a town isn't going to do much, since you need 2 to destroy a town and 3 for a city. However, this power can scale. If you have 2 each, fire and earth, you can deal 1 damage twice, as long as you are targeting buildings in the same land. You can focus down on 1 building to destroy it, or if you are doing a fun combo attack, you can spread your damage out among the buildings. The second level requires at least 2 moon and earth. This one produces 2 fear and pushes a town, and this effect scales for every 2 moon and 2 earth you have. But for peak crazy, we have the third threshold. For this one, you need to gather up to 5 moon, 6 fire, 6 earth, and you also need to pay 7 energy. That is freaking expensive. This better be a good effect. Well, let's unpack this first. Reaching this threshold means you have unlocked the ones before it, considering the elements in use, and they both scale. So just reaching this means that in 1 land you are occupying, you are dealing 6 damage to the various buildings, producing 4 fear and pushing 2 towns. So you're already raising hell in 1 land before you even go on to the third effect. So what does it do? Well, when you get this one, you look at every single land on the entire island and deal a damage for every Serpent presence in and next to that land. And considering that you can pretty much only do this in the late game, you will certainly have a lot of presence on the board. It might not be enough to clear every land, but it will certainly bring the invader population down to a fraction of what it once was. This is, without a doubt, one of the most fun things you can do in the entire game, up there with sinking part of the island into the ocean. I even made a random video to show this because it was so much fun to swat aside over a dozen towns and cities in one fell swoop, and listen to that fear pile up. But is this practical? Oh heck no. As awesome as this power is, the cost to pull it up is a bit too high. Without outside help, you will need 4 cards minimum to activate this. You need the right elements, and you need 7 energy burning a hole in your pocket in addition to whatever you spent on your power cards. At the point where you can pull this off, the game will probably be over anyways, for better or worse. Geez, I was wondering why this was taking a while, but then I realized I was talking about 6 entirely separate effects for 2 powers. Now before I move on, I have an odd observation. I've gotten more Terror level 4 victories with the Slumbering Serpent than I have with any other spirit I have played, and that includes Bringer of Dreams and Nightmares. I'm not sure if that is because I like playing with the Kaiju Snek more than Bringer, or if it's because the Serpent tends to play the long game a lot more than Bringer, or what. I have noticed that the fear gathered from the second threshold of rouses and anger can really pile up, and it is pretty easy to reach. And while I am not sure if this contributes, but Serpent is also the only spirit that I have played, and as a reminder I have not played Jagged Earth spirits, that doesn't move Dahan around. Yeah, seriously, every game in the core game, Branching Claw and first promo packs can move Dahan around at least a little bit. Except this one. I know it makes sense in the lore since Kaiju Snek is so far removed from the ecosystem on the surface that they can't really have interactions with the Dahan. But still, mechanically it's kinda weird once you notice. The only way the Serpent can move Dahan around is if they gain a power card that allows them to do so. Now obviously you need to communicate with your other players, but the Serpent requires much more communication than most. You will need to talk with them about any support bonuses you want to give out, and you need to be able to discuss when you need to absorb essence. Swiping one of your friend's spots when they're trying to do something with it can be a little aggravating, but also you will need their help to build yourself up. Essentially, your team will be carrying you until you get strong enough to carry them through frequent card plays and major powers. And now it is time for recommended first turns. Now again, you don't need to follow this to the letter, as many things can come up that can change the plan. And to be fair, this one's a lot more context specific than other ones, as there are a lot of variables that can change the plan here. But anyways, you'll note that these first turns are going to be heavily reliant on Elemental Aegis, as it is your only way to respond to invaders in the early game. On your first turn, gain a presence and gain a power card. Shocking development, I know. Take from the bottom track and place your presence at a distance to maximize coverage. Your power in this turn will not matter as much as long as you don't play Aegis, since you don't need it. Careful with Absorb Essence though. Only use it this early if another spirit is fine with it. Say if they have a very fast presence gain. Second turn growth, same as the first. Presence and power card. Take the presence from the bottom track to get your second card play. When placing it, think about where you want to defend, as one Elemental Aegis can shield 2 lands, sometimes 3. At this point, you should have 3 energy, or 5 if you used Absorb Essence previously and got the bonus energy from it. If you haven't, you might want to consider using it now, so that Aegis provides defend 3s instead of defend 2s, so it can help with the coastal areas and cities if need be. Now if you can defend your lands without using Aegis here, either through the help of your friends or really lucky power draws, then save Aegis for next turn. Otherwise, play it and save your lands. Round 3, if you haven't used Aegis, then same as before, power and presence. If you have, reclaim and presence. Regardless, take your presence from the top track. Round 4, same deal. Presence for the top track, be sure you have Aegis in hand. Now at this point, if you haven't used Absorb Essence and you haven't lost any presence, then you will have reached your presence limit and you will need to address that. And since Absorb Essence costs 2, you'll probably want to address that sooner rather than later. Round 5, take your presence from the top track, and whatever you like for your second option. This should get you that lovely Reclaim 1 tile, and you will no longer need to reclaim over and over and over again to get Aegis back. And this is where you get freedom. And yeah, 5 rounds is a long time to do paint by numbers rounds. But at this point, you will start to grow into your power and you can get quite a bit of stuff done. Just keep gaining presence for those awesome rewards on the other side of that checkpoint. Now for majors, Serpent is in the unique position where it almost doesn't matter what major powers they get. Yeah, they will have an advantage with fire, water, earth, and moon thresholds, but that free element will do them a lot of good in getting to a major power thresholds, even if you don't have the cards for them. Now in the early game, you'll be helping your friends reach their thresholds with your own support, so do talk to your friends about what they need. And that is Kaiju Snek. I hope you have enjoyed this and it has been helpful. I hope to see you next time for my Year 2 recap. See you then. A hibernating bear that just wants... God. Okay. That was a good take, too.